Alright, hello. Welcome back to Not Just a Filmmaker. I am not just a filmmaker because I am also looking for a job. My name is also Lachlan. I forgot to mention that bit. But if you looked at the image on the podcast title, then I guess you already knew that. Or you subscribed to the YouTube channel, in which case, welcome. Alright, so how do I starting. That was a really awful beginning to the podcast. All right, welcome to the podcast. Speaking of terrible openings, let's talk about last episode, episode 5. What a stinker. That absolutely sucked. I just tell you, that episode probably should have been like 10 minutes. That should not have gone for half an hour. What did I even talk about? I spent a lot of time talking about Facebook shutting down the news, which I never followed up on research on. And as of recording this, it went through. But from my understanding, Facebook was able to negotiate things they wanted in the law. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've heard people saying it's a good thing. I've heard people saying it's a bad thing. So I don't really know what to think. I just know that it happened. And I would personally rather that the law didn't exist. But here we are. And that is, I spent a lot of time talking about that. And I did nothing with Spotify. And for anyone listening or watching, maybe on Spotify, you will know that may have changed in the past 2 weeks. And I keep using possible pretenses because I haven't done it yet. And that's true. I'm recording this on the Friday. The plan is to do it tomorrow. Because, hey, if it's not the due date, it's not the due date. Am I right? Haha. I went through high school. You can tell because I use phrases like that. Yeah. I mean, at least I'm not, sitting in my Harry Potter robe saying, "Ooh, look at me, adulting, drinking coffee." Oh, I say as I pull out my coffee. You guys are going to really hate that noise. But there's only like 3 listeners to this podcast weekly, so we're going to go with it. And to those 3, thank you. All right. Yeah, last episode, really bad. I'm quite sorry for the way that it went. I'll be honest, I wish it could have gone better, but you know how it goes. If it sucks, it sucks. And if you're unprepared and you're lazy and you don't think about the podcast for 2 weeks and then you record it at the very last minute, it's going to suck. Which is more or less my way of studying. And you can tell, because now I'm doing a podcast in my bedroom, in my 20s. Yeah, look, context matters, and that was not good context. Nor does it really matter, I think. I don't know. There are worse situations to be caught in, and I'm at home, laundry's done for me, dinner's done for me. I'm an absolute lazy slob when it comes to that. So, not really, I'm quite a cleanly person, but I am really not taking charge of my life. I think this has just become therapy sessions with me, where I just talk about my problems, vent into a void. This will probably come back to bite me in like 20 years or so, where someone pulls up this obscure podcast and goes, "Did anyone else look at this podcast? Because quite obviously this guy's a psychopath or lazy or inefficient." I don't know what else to call him. So that is the fun bit of trashing last week. Like, there was no content for last week. There was nothing for me to talk about. If anything, the best thing, like the content I talked about last week, was it sucking, and now I can talk about it this week and it's sucking. Which is very, very fun. Sorry, just getting more coffee. I've been up since 4 a.m. this morning. I'm trying to power through it. I had work. Because I'm recording this on a Friday. I work 5:30 to 10:30 on Fridays. And it absolutely wrecks my body. By that, I mean like 2:30, 3 o'clock, I am pushing it. I am giving everything I've got to the rest of the day. And I just have to keep on giving. But I'm here doing it, and I'm doing it because I really actually enjoy podcasting. It is surprising fun. I really should be taking more aim and care into podcasting. So I think I will do my. It's going to be on Spotify, and It's going to be around for at least a year. We're signing a 1 year contract. We're signing a 1 year contract for podcasting, and we're going to invest money into this, and it's going to be fun. Obviously, I have to. Off the bat, I will also talk about what's coming up next episode 7 in a fortnight. Oscar nomination predictions, which should be interesting. I'm looking at perhaps potentially getting a few other people on the show. And I don't know if that'll increase my view count, but I think talking about the Oscars is really, really interesting to me, just because I'm such a really big fan of film. I honestly am struggling to understand why I keep putting this in the comedy category on podcasts. This is more of like a lifestyle. I ramble for an hour, and then, not even an hour, 30 minutes, and then we all say, wow, what a great use of time, and then we go home. Or you are home, or you're on your way to work. It doesn't really matter where you listen to podcasts, because you listen to mine, and all 3 listeners know that is the perfect place to listen to me. Always. Whatever that place is, it's the perfect place. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. I don't know why. Fridays really wreck me. Like, it's just I go to work, I go to the gym, I come home, I have lunch, and then my body's just kind of like, all right, I think that's the day, right? And in reality, that's probably like 7 hours of being up. It's essentially a school day, right? It's a school day. I woke up an hour before I have to go to school, and then but then there's, instead of like, you get home at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then there's just like, somewhere between 5 and 8 hours left in the day for you. Before you like feel tired. I'm just walking around going, I feel astronomically tired. And it's just, I just 3 o'clock become a zombie. If, World War Z becomes reality, you will not notice if I've become a zombie or not, because I basically look like the same. I don't think I've shaved in a few days. I don't know, maybe close to a week. I just look like I'm losing it. I look like I'm becoming like a recluse writer. Where first stage through the 20s, it's like Woody Allen. Maybe not the best example, but actually that's a pretty shitty example. I mean, he won a lot of Oscars for writing, but he touched his 7-year-old daughter, and we don't approve of that here, or touching any other 7-year-olds, or any other daughters that are children and underage. Pedophile's bad, especially if it's your own kid. I don't know why. Is that like, that seems to me to be like a more egregious case of pedophilia, isn't it? If like the kid's yours. Sorry, this is just a dark turn. I didn't even write this down. It's just Woody Allen. What's some fucked up shit? There's a lot of things I want to contemplate about that. Jeez. I mean, I heard that he's got there's a documentary, Allen v. Farrow, which is about Woody Allen and the legal battle with Mia Farrow, who was the woman in Rosemary's Baby. If anyone actually cared. Their son, Ronan Farrow, he wrote a book called Catch and Kill. A great book. I really do recommend it. It features some of the most horrifying writing I've ever read. It's just like, it's about, sorry, I haven't even explained what it's about. The book is about uncovering the Harvey Weinstein scandal, and how he's doing all this background reporting before anyone has even gone live, open about it, I guess. And I suppose with it's just, the most terrifying 4 pages is just, I think it's from a female's perspective as she becomes sexually assaulted or sexually harassed. It is, I can only applaud the writing. Like, it is horrifying and terrifying, and I cannot express how more traumatizing it is to read that, let alone experience it. That is some terrifying, dark shit. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, this is a comedy podcast, right? um, yeah, okay. So last episode really sucked, and I'm hoping today that I think today I've actually got some solid content that I am able to impress people with, and that will get people to maybe watch this, slash listen to, slash download anyway, increase the numbers. Okay, my family and we've started doing these things called parks runs. Basically, it's like this local running group. You run and you in like a 5 kilometer circuit, and they just time you and you get placed, and it's just for fitness and for fun and for well-being, and just a little bit of friendly competition. Never hurt. I've run twice. Running the second time, I never realized how how much further or faster you want to run when you're just competing against strangers. You don't even know their name. You will not remember their face. But they're just to compete against them just brings something out in me. Mostly just a highly competitive spirit. And I pushed myself for the 5K, and I got the best time I'd ever gotten. And which is, for one, fantastic. It was a minute better than my previous PB. It was like, it's not an awesome time, but for me, I'm really happy with it. It's 27:59, and one thing that I did, I think this is the biggest regret of the past week, is that after I finished the race, I sat down on the grass, and I cannot express the profound pain I have felt the last Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, last six of the last 7 days. It's awful. It is truly awful. They have I had pain shooting up all the way up my leg, just because I think the lactic acid caused my muscles to seize a little bit. I don't know if I'm using the biology terms correctly, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And it just made walking and standing and running and doing anything like crouching or anything at all super, super, super difficult. And you know what? I had to fake smiling for customer service. Whenever I walked, I looked really, really stupid. And this isn't the only time I think I'm going to bring up in this podcast how stupid I looked or how stupid I feel. I felt stupid as well, but it looked like I'd just gotten like a metal pole or metal bars just implanted in my legs instead of having bones, like just bone replacements, but they were metal bars, right? It looked like that was what I had. Like I just had a metal rod stuck in my leg, and they go, "Oh, this man's just had a femur replacement. Give the man some space. Give him a little bit of sympathy. The man needs to have space." So you look at a situation like that, and I'm walking around. I had to do a 9-hour shift the following day. It did not help. Believe it or not. Walking around does help it a little bit, but doing that did not help at all. It's just standing and sitting and laying down and doing anything hurt too much. So I spent I suppose that's the stupid things just start to keep piling up after I sat down on the grass and rested for 5 minutes. I didn't ice it. I didn't put deep heat on it. I didn't get a massage for it, or at least a proper one, I guess. I just sort of lived with it for 5 days, a recovery period which definitely should not have been 5 days. I mean, it took until yesterday for me to actually feel like not that much pain. Like I should probably be okay in getting up and running about. It's just been quite painful. But then it took until I didn't even do any recovery. I just waited out. I waited out the pain. Didn't go to the gym, didn't go for a run. I went for one walk. I figured walking would actually help it, stay stretched out naturally, I guess, if that's the right phrasing. But it's walking helped a bit, I think, with it. But then I went for a run yesterday. I did a 4K run yesterday, and I got back and it started hurting again. So I had to get I'd bought my mum one of those like massaging shoulder pad things. I got them for her for Christmas a few years ago. I had to put that under my legs, alternating for about an hour and a half, just to have this robot machine massage the back of my leg. Oh, sorry, something went past the window. It is just it just really, really hurt. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was painful, and I worried about not being able to walk this morning because it was just like one of those things where you do it and you go, oh no, I really shouldn't have done that. That is going to really hurt, and it did. I'll be honest, I was able to walk, and I walked fine. It just required me to do a decent amount of stretching, and it was an important life lesson. Put it like this: that run that I went on, was an important life lesson about doing the appropriate warm-ups and cool-downs, and not doing dumb shit. I have to protect the body. My body. What's the phrase? My body is a temple. Yeah, look, if my body was a temple, I assure you, it would be run down and haunted by ghosts. This is not a fit body. It is just a container for me to move in, and I sort of can, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think when I was after the run yesterday, I think the biggest problem was just my Achilles, because I used to have Achilles heel problems. I was growing. It was back when I was like 10 playing footy. I was growing too tall for my muscles. I can't remember if it was my bones or my muscles. I was growing too fast, and it was either my muscles were unable to keep up with my bones, so everything was feeling stretched. And when I was running and playing footy, it was okay, but then I'd stop and I'd take off the shoe, take off the boots, and they just hurt. Like, it would just be awkward pain. Like, touching my heels would be too painful, so I had to learn how to walk on my toes. Until we got appropriate fixings for that. I think, I'll be honest, if there's a part of my body that's going to fail me before anything else, it's definitely going to be my legs. I'll be honest, my arms is, those are things. Eyesight, hearing, my sense of smell is virtually gone already. I have to assume it's my legs will be the first body part to fail me, and I will probably be in a robot wheelchair when I turn 25. So that's going to be a fun few years. We'll just have to wait and see how that little nugget of fun goes. What else have we got on there? I suppose so I really hurt my calves. If anyone has any tips or advice for why or how to best take care of your calves when you're running, that would be greatly appreciated. Sorry. For audio listeners, I am just touching all of my face because I am starting to hit a wall. This movie, this doesn't feel like it's going to be a short episode. It feels like this is going to be a decently sized episode. I don't think I'm going to power through it. Besides, I'm not even done with my tasks for today. We're not giving up. Right. I've been going to the movies a lot, specifically at night. That may become as a surprise to no one, because I'm pretty sure the 3 listeners know me personally and they would suspect me for going to the movies at night. Or they know I go to the movies. I used to go to the movies a lot during the day. I would hit up 10 a.m. sessions. 10 a.m. sessions were just the thing I went to. I thought it ended up being a good way to get out of the house, but also, upon looking at it in hindsight, it was a great way to waste 3 hours during the day. Because I think the way my mind works is right, you can sleep, and then you wake up and you have a leisurely morning, and then you go see the movies, and then you're out of the movies at 1 p.m, and you might do a bit of browsing at the shopping centres, looking at Blu-rays and DVDs and bloody pop vinyls or shirts and whatnot. And then you go home and you're home at like 2:30, right? 2 o'clock. Now that's okay, but when you boil what's happened in that day down to that moment, you've done nothing. It just hit me like, I do nothing when I go to the movies in the morning. Like, I go to the movies. I go to the 10 a.m. session. I'm out at 12:30, 12 o'clock. And then there's like another hour wasted. And then I come home and I'm hungry, so I have lunch. And I feel a bit lethargic, so I keep resting. And when really that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you play that in your head, you're like, oh, you're right. You went to the movies, you sat down for 2.5 hours, you went leisurely strolled through the shopping centre, and then you have to rest. Like, that's just one of those like weird ideas, like holiday after a holiday sort of weird idea. And then the rest of the day happen, and then you're just resting for an hour or two, and then you go, 3:30. Oh, I should probably do something today. Rather than, using the time appropriately. Because then, like, by 3:30, you've used probably most of your energy for the day. Unless you're, like, storing up the energy because you got a big one tonight. What are you going to do today? So, it's just... I decided that the best way to combat a situation like that would be to go to the movies at night. And that seems like a pretty no shit sort of answer. Mostly because, like, you go through your entire day, you have dinner, and then by the time you have dinner, it's like 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then you go to, like, the 7 o'clock, 7:30 session of the film you want to go see. And you go see a new release, because new releases always play at that time. Which is pretty good. Pretty good way to keep the schedule consistent. And yeah, that's just one of those things where you go ahead and you do that. And I feel like since I started doing that, I think... When was the first time I did that this year? I saw Chaos Walking last night, which was okay. I'll be doing a brief movie review on it on my TikTok at Lockie P. The E in Lockie is a 3. Or on my Instagram, Lachlan Laporte. And then there's the week before last week I saw Boss Level, which you can see my brief movie review for. And then the week before that, which was... Oh, that must have been Synchronic. Synchronic, what a really good film. I think I spoke about that. Just like dropped that in the middle of the last podcast. Oh yeah, I saw Synchronic. It was really good. Yeah, it was just... changing a schedule like that, I think that is a good choice and decision. Mostly because... sorry. I think that is a good decision because it allows me to do so much more with my day. And that's why you should never go to the movies in the day. I think what I'm just trying to boil my point down to, I've finished reading Atomic Habits. My aim is to just change small things slightly so that they benefit me more. Like, I used to have a to-do list. I don't know if you can see it. It's like essentially just off to the left of screen or right of screen. I don't know which way this is going to come out. And I used to have it hanging above my desk and it was super productive. But then I moved rooms down here and I had to change. I essentially just stopped looking at it because it was in an inconvenient spot. And that being right next to my door as I leave. Like, I'm not looking at, you're not looking at your door when you're working. So, I blue tacked it to my desk and I blue tacked a few other things to my desk. I think that's just what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create a collage on my desk. And that's what I'm going to do to make myself more productive. I'm just going to put that on my desk. That way I can always be thinking about what the next thing is. Oh, I know what to do. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at my desk. I'm like, oh, that can be improved. That can be improved to be beneficial to myself. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out ways to make like these small 1% changes better in my life. As you can see, No, you still can't see because you couldn't see the corkboard. On the back of my door, I had like a movie checklist. It would essentially... It was movies coming out for the next 3 months. Movies from 2020 I haven't seen yet. Movies from 2021 I haven't seen yet. Movies that I bought on Blu-ray and DVD up there that I haven't watched yet, but they're on the shelf. And then there's movies on my bookshelf of Blu-rays and DVDs, like 700 Blu-rays and DVDs. Movies that I haven't watched completely. Like they may be from a box set, or they may be just, I put them on in the background and I just didn't really care that much. Movies like that I am doing. But then I also added like masterclass courses I want to do and TV series I want to watch. And I started culling the TV series and then moving them into a different document. At one point I just brought I printed out like what I called a TV show tracker. Basically, it was the TV show. Imagine like, what am I watching at the moment? WandaVision, right? Let's say it's WandaVision. WandaVision, limited series, Disney Plus. And then it would be like a table, and it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 9. And I just highlighted after every episode that I watched, like just to track my progress. How far am I into the show? How many episodes are there? Am I doing quite well for the show? Who knows? Who's to really say? And one thing I noticed, I think, upon reflecting on doing that, I think I only did like the TV show tracker. I've done that for like since, October. October was the first month I did it. One thing I think I've just noticed in hindsight, productivity went way down just because it was very addictive to just watch a TV show. Watch an episode and you go, 22 minutes, cross that off. It's just... they brought it up in like Atomic Habits. Is like, this guy started making $5 million in sales because he kept moving after every call. He would move one paperclip and put it in the next jar. It was just a satisfying action for him. So I figured that highlighting TV shows was satisfying enough to me that it was becoming addictive. So what I've done instead is I have just put it in a folder on my shelf. It is no longer on the back of my door. It is just there. I'll be honest, it's just there. And the amount of TV I've watched in the past week may have just been 3 episodes of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. When you would compare to like what it would be beforehand, and I probably would have watched a season of television in that time. Whereas now it's just kind of like, I watched 3 episodes of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Plus I've only watched 3 movies so far this month. This is the 5th, starting from the 1st, which 2 I watched on the same day. And I just watched 1 last night. Like, it's just slowed me down. I've just slowed it down. I'm able to just focus on working and being productive more, trying to get those little 1% things just to tick it over and tick it over. Wow, keeping this chair upright has actually made me more energetic. Another life hack. I probably will never pay attention to this bit. When you come back to my podcast next time, I will probably be leaning in the chair again. Don't hesitate or worry about that. I haven't forgotten about that bit. Oh, we're nearly at 30 minutes on the recorder. I have to turn the camera off and we'll start again. All right. Okay. What are we talking about? Going to the movies at night and 1% habits. It's just, I think that's just one of the, if I can recommend someone trying to make a positive change, going to the movies at night is a positive change I think one can make. At the very least, you don't have to you drive to the place, you watch 20 minutes of ads, and you drive home. Even if you like arriving at the cinema at like, the movie starts at 7:10, you arrive at 7:10. You were sitting in your seat at 7:10. There's still 40 to 45 minutes, depending on where you live. Like, let's say you live 10 minutes from the nearest cinema. That's still 40 minutes you're leaving in the extra in the day. Like, if you think about it, if you wanted to go see, like, Tenet, right? Tenet's 2.5 hours. But to actually watch it in the cinemas, you have to put aside about 4 hours of time. Because you just need to organise, all right, I'm going to get ready to go to the movies. I will drive to the cinema. I will watch the advertisements. I'll watch the movie. I will drive home. That's like, add that all up, that's well over 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours. at best. Whereas if you did that during the day, that's either A, a whole morning plus your lunch, or B, your entire afternoon. Which are, look, I can think of more productive afternoons than just watching Tenet. Obviously, Tenet's involved somehow, but you just don't spend it all on Tenet. Yeah, and that's, it's just, I think it's always going back to self-help, right? It's just those small 1% things that I think will make a difference to anyone who just tries to change or shift things a little bit. Like, I used to do platypus reviews. I would make movie reviews on YouTube. I think what I'm pivoting to now is just TikTok and Instagram Reel, and maybe I'll put it on YouTube. I don't really know. It's just about making enough stuff and throwing it up there and seeing what lands. Maybe. Right. I think that's, yeah, for all that to be encompassed under why you should go to the movies at night. Wow. I'm going to type that in. 1% efforts. Right. Okay. People who live in the CBD are crazy. Yes. All right. Yeah. No, I saw this on the news the other night. They were talking about how lifespans varied 80 years in the state of Victoria. Like, from area to area, it just changes 80 years. I think it goes back to the idea that moving yourself into a more affluent neighborhood, on average, not on average, will generally increase, your pay will generally increase to the average of that area. Or you will, and you live the lifestyle on average of that area. That's not really something I've considered about moving out. I think if I want to move out and it's just kind of like, hey, would you like to go live in Cranbourne? I would look at that and go, oh no, Cranbourne's a while away. It's also a bit of a shithole. But, you take it every you contemplate it. Obviously, you don't move to Lilydale. That's just common sense. But yeah, they were talking about how, I think it's like areas like Camberwell and Surrey Hills and Hawthorne and Brighton, they all have like lifespans to the late 80s. That's the average lifespan. 88, 89 to 84, right? That's a very good lifespan. Then they compared it to those living in like the CBD, and it's one of those like weird things, right? Where you think about it and you go, right, so you go from a really well industrialized, modernized setting. It's very trendy, it's very expensive, it's very hip, and they do quite well. And then you go to the CBD and you go, well, I mean, like, it can't get trendier than being in the city, I guess, if there's an argument to be made for that. But the lifespan of someone living in the city is 59. That's just crazy. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me, right? Like, there's like very little greenery. Greenery just helps people be happier. Green is the calmest colour. That's why going for walks is so peaceful. You just walk through, a reserve or onto a footy oval. It's just calming. The green does something to your brain, activates a chemical, makes you calmer. My room used to be painted green for that reason. Just, it would make me feel calmer. Like, the colour would just, I would be calmer in here than I would if I was somewhere else. Now I'm in a blue room, which, if, what's your English teacher say? I'm depressed. But I think it's like one of those things where you think about it and you go, well, I mean, there's not really a lot of free space. It's very crowded. It's cramped. People are quite rude because everyone just assumes you're all strangers and going to work. There's not that much special, I think, or not that much that is good for a person to be living in the CBD. Like, to live in the CBD, you are going there for the convenience of work. That is, in my opinion and my understanding, quite literally, the only benefit of living in the CBD is to live closer to work. That's it. If you're in the CBD, not there for work, you are homeless. That is the only. There are only two reasons to be living in the CBD. You're homeless. You're living closer to work. Even if you live in, but the only legitimate reason I think is because you're homeless. Living close to work is such a ridiculous excuse of living in the CBD. I think, and probably COVID actually contributed to that a bit, don't you think? Like, if COVID is causing people to just work from home, and they only just got to 75% capacity for working in the office, everyone who's living in the CBD, essentially lives like a very cold and fixed living, I think. I don't know. It just blows my mind that you can travel 10 kilometers and the difference of average lifespan is 30 years. Like, that's... And to think of, like, the average lifespan, right? Like, it has to be an average. So there's got to be people well below 59 dying to formulate an average of 59. How old are people dying in the CBD? Like, what are people like dying at like 44 and like, oh, why do they die? Stress, heart attacks, I don't know. That's something I probably should have researched before, shouldn't I? But I don't have the effort or the not so much know-how. Willpower, I think is the right phrase. It's just it just blows my mind. I have to assume it is trees. Trees have to be the only reason that, not so much the only reason, trees and the environment you live in have to be like the major reasons of why there is such a difference in lifespan. I mean, I know there are Aboriginal communities in rural New South Wales that are dying at like 40. The average lifespan is 40, which is horrifying. That's some third world mortality rates. Average lifespan. That is, like, hearing stuff like that is absolutely crazy. I just can't get over it, I guess. And I don't know if I ever will. But also, it's an argument not to move to the CBD. But do we all really want to move to Brighton? Because I've walked all around Brighton. It's just, yeah, it's just one of those terrifying facts that you learn in your week and you go, oh, that is depressing. Like, do people who move out of the CBD, do they live longer? Excuse me. Do they live happier lifestyles? Do they go on to be satisfied with the choices they made as an individual? No idea. I have no idea if they are satisfied with the choices they made. But, you know, you take some, you lose some. You deal with it. I don't really have a way to wrap that up. Like, that is just a haunting idea, right? Living to 59 in the CBD. Weird. Anyway, as I said at the top of the podcast, I'm job searching. So I'm just going to do a cheeky little plug here because it's my podcast and you can deal with it. portlachlan@gmail.com. That is my email for any queries you have and if you'd like to book my services. Filmmaking services, of course. Nothing else. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. I don't know why I said that. It's going to be in the podcast. It's just random stuff that I say off the top of my head that I do not edit out because that is an employee's job. And I'm not an employee, I'm an employer. Entrepreneurial mindset right there. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else is starting to do job searching or is job searching or job searched recently. It's super stressful. It's just overwhelming, I guess, that you send out your email and questions and hopes and dreams in a resume, and sometimes they just don't respond to you, and that is like, that's just going to be a really, really terrifying, overwhelming state, right? Just an overwhelming state of mind to be looking at this like that. Yeah. Wow, I've really just gone down a really dark rabbit hole this episode. Yeah, job searching is overwhelming. I'm just going to put it as clean and simply like that. I don't know if there's anything more I can add to it. I'm sending my email out. I'm getting some responses, but most of them are just kind of like, oh, thank you. We don't have anything to help you if you need help with right now, but thank you. Which is, I don't know where to look, and I don't know how to look, and it makes me feel stupid not knowing how to do what or where to look. If that makes sense. I just feel stupid doing that. I thought this was actually going to be better content by looking at it like that. I don't know if I actually want. No, we're gonna cut our losses. We're gonna move on from job searching. All right. I'm gonna lean back. I lied, guys. I'm going to lean back for the back and forth during this episode, and you'll have to watch. My chair is cool, but can it do this? Remember that meme, guys? Remember that meme from 2017? Anyway, so Raya and the Last Dragon came out. I think that's supposed to be mostly what I'm talking about. Minions 2 got pushed back another year, and Fast and Furious 9 got pushed back like a month, or a month and a bit, or just a month, or 2 months, something like that. And I look at this and I go, it's just Hollywood realigning the playing board, I guess. Tom and Jerry also came out last week, and apparently I think it did like $13 million in cinemas in America, which is like the best opening, and I think it's the most positive reopening one can simply hope for since the opening of I honestly don't. The Invisible Man was I was really happy with that opening, and that was over a year ago. Actually, it was pretty much a year ago. Ever since then, it's been a sad decline of of box office returns. Tenet tried to recoup some, Unhinged, the New Mutants, The Croods 2, Wonder Woman 1984, they all tried to accrue some box office money. And I can only say, overall, looking at Tom and Jerry's numbers of $13 million is a very, very positive response in the box office to a new film. Like, it is a number that should give people hope that it's a number that should give people hope regarding whether they will get huge, large blockbusters coming out this year. I mean, if you were to look at it like this, right, I would imagine that all the Warner Brothers films, they're locked in, right? They're locked in. They're coming out on HBO Max. They're coming out in cinemas on the same day. They would only not come out for that on that time, on those days, if something were to happen in its production, which for most of the films, they got pushed back a year already, so they would all be completed. They're like, In the Heights, I imagine that's going to come out no problem. Godzilla vs. Kong, I imagine that's going to come out no problem. They're just Mortal Kombat, no problem. Matrix 4, maybe that might get pushed back a little bit. But it's just looking at films like that are just, they're coming out. And I look at the safety plan, the safety net that's been established, and they're going to be okay with that. I think Paramount Plus just announced that they were going to release all their films 45 days after a theatrical window. Meaning like Mission Impossible 7 in November, 45 days will be on streaming, which is going to be like mid-January next year it'll be on streaming, which to me is a crazy thought. I think, but just going back to Tom and Jerry, it is the best response that you will have for the box office in hoping that films get released. Now, we did see Minions get pushed back a whole year, which I think is... I don't know what to take from it, because dominoes have to fall before you can start setting up the next ones. And I would assume that from a creative perspective, you'd probably want Fast and Furious to come out before you'd want Minions to come out. And it's not so, more or less like, this is just purely from a creative perspective, if you wanted to get the ball rolling on the business. In the fact that you have Fast and Furious 10 already announced and greenlit, and they're working on it, and you don't have Minions 3 announced. Now, whilst both films are more than likely going to make $1 billion in a regular, healthy box office, the environment is not simply there for that. And if they are to entice people to come out to the cinemas to see their movies, I think you have to start throwing some big things at the wall to see what the appetite is. And it looks like the first one that's going to fly at the wall will be Raya and the Last Dragon. It is, Disney's. It's a Disney animation film. It's an adventure action movie. It's a Disney princess movie. Looks like it's kind of adding up to be. It looks like it's going to be something worth keeping an eye on and watching. To see where the money lands on that, to see if anything positive will come out of that, and it's good. It's definitely adding up. I've got hope for it, but also if it does well on Disney Plus and does reasonable in cinemas, let's say it makes something like 13 million again, I think we could be potentially looking at Black Widow getting a release in late April, both in cinemas and on Disney Plus. I think that may have to be the norm for films wanting to be released. If it's not going to be Black Widow, you got Godzilla vs. Kong, right? And that gets HBO. But I kind of want to null and void all Warner Brothers films, because we all know they're there because HBO Max is there. And I think if it's not Raya and the Last Dragon, the next film that will go out that is a big studio blockbuster film will be Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds' movie. Because it's a 20th Century Fox movie, and Disney does not give a shit about its 20th Century Fox properties. They do not care. I think Free Guy will be the next film out if Raya goes down, isn't received well. Besides that, in between that, you got Godzilla vs. Kong and Mortal Kombat. There's a film every 2 or 3 weeks. You got Falcon and the Winter Soldier on at home. You got the Mighty Ducks show on. You got a whole lot of things you can watch. I personally would not be upset if they had to push back everything another year. It would bum me out. It would make me sad. I guess I just undid myself there, but it's like not something that I'd be like stressing and freaking out over. I'm like, no, they moved back everything another year. And whilst that would be heartbreaking, you have to look at it like this, right? Almost every film that's been pushed back is completed. Like, Black Widow is completed. It got pushed back like a month and a bit before it was released. Eternals would be close to completed. Shang-Chi would be probably completed by now. If not close to completed, because it was supposed to come out in February, and I imagine the schedule may have moved leniently, but they may not. It's probably close to completed. Minions 2 would be done. Fast and Furious would be done. Like, there are movies that are just done, and they're waiting, and they're sitting there, waiting to be released and seen by the public. And I think the idea of pushing them back to wait for a better time, sure, that you can say that's a good thing for public health. Not enticing people to go to the cinemas to go see a movie is a good decision, and particularly so in America, it probably is. But they just opened up New York cinemas for like the first time in a year. New Yorkers are going to go back to the cinemas. And you know what? I think it's just going to open up the floodgates, and films are going to start making, bit by bit, just a little bit of money. I mean, like, in comparison to blockbusters, they're not going to be making money. They're going to be losing money. But you're going to be seeing just a little bit of box office go up every every month or so. The next blockbuster might make a little bit more. Because I think it's just, you're at a point where you just got to start throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks, and hoping it sticks. Like I think the success of Raya and the Last Dragon is important to the industry because I think it shows which way Disney will go for the year. Because their next film is Black Widow, I'm pretty sure. They don't have a film in between. After Raya comes out, which it already has, they'll probably do another 1 or 2 weeks on Raya, and then you'll start figuring out what happens to Black Widow, which they say they're going to be committed to a cinema release. And I thought it was crazy last year, people saying that, oh, they'll go for a Disney Plus release. But I look at it now and I go, you can definitely do just a Disney Plus release, a studio release. And I feel like for Marvel, at a point, Marvel in particular, it might just get to a point where it's important where you just have to release it. Like, if you think about it correctly, they've got 4 films coming out this year. You've got Black Widow, Shang-Chi, The Eternals, and Spider-Man not from home, far from home. No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home. You have those 4 Marvel movies, plus you had WandaVision coming out, then you got Falcon and Winter Soldier, you got What If, you got Loki, you got Hawkeye, and you got Ms. Marvel. There is so much coming out that to sort of like push one thing back is to push them all back. And then you got to back up into next year, and Thor: Love and Thunder is filming, and Guardians 3 will be filming soon. And there's Black Panther 2 coming out soon, and Captain Marvel 2 coming out soon. Like, you just start pushing things back further and further, and what are you to do with stuff like that? Obviously, I think in the next podcast next podcast, I said it earlier, will be the Oscar nominations episode. And I may talk about this briefly with people towards the end of the podcast, just to see what their thoughts are on that. This has actually gone on for quite a while. Right, I think we'll wrap it up there. What is this, close to an hour? How do I do? Yeah, 50, I've been recording for just over 53 minutes. It will probably come down to like close to 50. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. Obviously, email portlachlan@gmail.com. You have any questions you want to put on the podcast, you want to hire me as well, send an email through there. TikTok, Lockie P, the 3 in Lockie so the E in Lockie is a 3, so LACHI3P. Instagram, Lachlan Lyle Port. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give me a 5-star rating on iTunes because that's important, I think. But also, Spotify. Look, I don't know if it'll be on Spotify by Monday, but I'm pretty sure this podcast will be on Spotify. So as soon as it's on Spotify, we can go nuts sharing that because that's where most of the audience is going to be, I guess. Yeah. So, this feels like it was a better episode than last time. I'll put it like that. So I'm really happy with this. All right. I guess I'll see you guys in a fortnight. Have a good one.